Welcome to the Creative Portfolios Workshop. This is the virtual version of it. So we've got two career advisors here in the room, as well as one of the peers here representing. My name's Ashley Mesvar Gonzalez. I work with the arts, culture, and media interests. Edith and Francesca, you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah.
I
Thank
can
you,
go.
Ashley. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. My name's Francesca. I'm a junior and I'm a marketing major and minoring in visual communication.
All right, thank you. My name is Edith Sanchez, and I'm also a career advisor. I work with students interested in marketing, advertising, and PR industries. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. So what we're going to kind of cover today, we are going to just provide a very quick overview of what Career Services does, some of the resources you have available to you. We're going to talk about what a portfolio is in the broadest sense. Then we're going to walk through some steps of ideas for putting a portfolio together and refining it over time. We'll talk a little bit about how you might want to present your work, both informally in terms of like a networking setting, or potentially more formally during like a grad school interview or during a job interview. And of course, we'll have our guest presenter, Francesca, kind of walk through what her portfolio looks like. And depending on our numbers, we might do some pairing and sharing. That part of that workshop will not be recorded, but if you're interested later on getting either some peer feedback or feedback from Edith and I, you're of course welcome to sign up for some one-on-ones with us and look out for more events in the future. So, career services. Edith and I both mentioned we are career advisors. We offer one-on-one career advising to all current Loyola students, but also for alumni for the first 5 years after you graduate. Our job really is to help support you make the transition from college to career. So, think of us as these kind of wraparound and transition services. Other things that we do, we are writing some newsletters. Those are getting sent out bi-weekly, so they show up in your inbox telling you about different opportunities that are out there, events that might be happening, and tips and tricks for entering your industry. But there's a lot to explore, both in terms of events Career Services runs and the resources we have asynchronously through Handshake and our website. So portfolios, the reasons we are coming here today to talk about these. A portfolio is, in the basic sense, it is a curated collection of your work. It's not everything you've ever done. It's not every detail of every piece you've ever put together, but it is just an introduction to your work that helps people get to know who you are as a creative and the skills that you have. So its goal, the portfolio's goal, is to quickly and effectively demonstrate what you're capable of. So it might be proficiencies in particular technology or your style and approach to the work. Your portfolio, though, is again not for you, it is for your audience. So thinking about what does a potential employer, a potential freelance contract, a potential grad school need to know about your work so that they know it's a good fit. There's no one right way to do a portfolio. There's lots and lots of variations, and there's even variations from industry to industry. So an actor's portfolio is going to look really different than a marketing portfolio. It's going to look really different than an author or a writer's portfolio. Part of what we do is kind of reach out to people. We want you all like thinking about your portfolios and getting ideas from other people, right? So bringing this idea of networking in, which is going to be a theme we will continue to touch on throughout this presentation. So a quick check-in. If you are feeling 100% ready to go, like everything's good, you have a curated, polished collection of excerpts of your work that are accurately representing who you are and the skill set that you have. It's easily shareable. People will be able to log in or connect with it. It's going to be appropriate to the media that you use, and it is aligned with all the standards and norms of your industry. That's option A, right? And that's where maybe if you've been in the field for 10 plus years, you're starting to feel that way. But most people are in the second box, right? There's still part of this that I'm developing or thinking about. It's not quite where I want it yet. And if you are in that kind of part B, you're in the right spot because obviously in college and as a recent grad, you're going to be in this space kind of redefining your portfolio over time. So I'm going to switch it over to Edith for a second. Edith will kind of walk us through the overview of some of these steps.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, when I feel like every time I share a little bit of what a portfolio is or what the purpose is on how to start building one, usually I think about research, and this can look different for any student or an alum. I start thinking about things that are shareable, and these could be like case studies. These could be hypothetical case studies that you've been doing when you're working, and I'm just gonna make it up and say like marketing 201. I actually don't really know what the class is, but um maybe you're doing consumer behavior, and you're working with a specific client and you're developing content for them. Then this is where I start thinking about, okay, what are projects that you're that can be shareable first, and then other ones that are going to be exposing you to a team as a leader. So this is where I would say the research part is, because you start thinking about, okay, I'm a student, I'm exposed to these kinds of projects. Maybe you're also a writer, you're an artist, and you are already exposed to this kind of work. So I think it can be with like the kind of work that you're collecting and how you're sharing that with others, maybe within your own team, within your circle of friends. And from that, you start thinking about like your strengths and abilities, your skills. It can be tech skills, it can be things that also are social skills. For example, you might be very talented with Canva, for example, as a platform. Um, and I think this can definitely translate into potential work that you can include on your portfolio. This is where the gathering examples of your work are going to be coming from. And it can definitely be from like coursework from a class. Maybe you also did work for, maybe you're part of a student organization and you help out with their social media. Um, there might be some samples that you might feel proud of that you can include for that potential job search. You know, when you are thinking about applying for a specific job or an internship, you start thinking about what can you showcase? What is something you can present? Okay. Um, choosing an appropriate host platform or, for your work. I think this is something that I believe is going to be very applicable to most industries or most students who are wanting to do a portfolio. And I'm thinking right now, my students who are more in like advertising, PR, um, marketing, freelance, where they start thinking about a specific platform where they can manage this work and update it pretty, on a regular basis. Because eventually it's going to line up with your resume and with a cover letter and other materials, so LinkedIn as well. Okay. Um, Other things that I can always include, but I would love for Francesca to share a little bit more of her experience and her portfolio, because her portfolio is pretty much a good example, in my opinion, of something that I think is it has amazing work, and there's a lot of work put into it, and I feel like it can be very applicable to most backgrounds. It doesn't really, you don't have to be coming from a marketing background, so super applicable. But from like questions around like font to like frames, anything related to color, I definitely think it's okay to start questioning those things right now when you're doing your research. But I want to make sure that we have enough time for Francesca.
Yeah,
So we're probably gonna, and yeah, Ashley, feel free to share anything else. Yeah.
perfect. So I'll switch over.
Okay.
Are you able to see the portfolio right now?
Yes. Thank
Perfect.
you.
So, yeah, Francesca, take it away for a couple minutes. Kind of walk us through, how did you make the decisions you made? What is it that kind of stuck out to you? Why did you make the choices you made?
Yeah, so I'll just start off with saying I created my portfolio around last spring, and I kind of wanted to make it because I noticed that a lot of the jobs that I was applying to, they didn't necessarily recommend a portfolio, but obviously it's recommended, and I feel like that's just the best way to show, especially for like marketing jobs, what like your work looks like, and it kind of like you're kind of able to tell more of who you are and like what you can give to a company. So that's why I wanted to start working on a portfolio. And yeah, so in my portfolio, if you like scroll down a little bit, I included a like little about me section. I kind of based my portfolio off of what I was seeing from other people's that I was looking at. So yeah, I just did like a small about me section, and then if you keep scrolling, I just did some of my classes and softwares that I am familiar with. And then I have a small table of contents, and then my main things that I included were my content marketing with my job at Career Services. And then in this section, I decided to include certain things that I did because or I chose like videos that did the most well because it kind of is you're able to show more of like your strategies, and especially if you include and like write about like why it did well and you're able to analyze it. So I would say if you're making like a portfolio related to marketing or in general, and you show examples of things that you do, then definitely like kind of write about your thought process for certain things so that employers can know more about how your brain thinks, and it'll help them kind of see how you would be if you worked at their company and had to, do things for them. Yeah, so that's why I included certain things that I did and certain videos. Yeah, I also included some just examples of posts that I've made. And for all of these, I was choosing the best content that I had so far. I don't think for a portfolio, like if you're starting a new one, I don't think it has to be like necessarily perfect, but I think it's good to have like a good starting point and include the things that does look good for you. But yeah, that's why I included those. And then I decided to also include some personal videos and personal content that I've created, just because marketing is such a, visual and kind of like, especially with visual marketing, it's very like personal. So I feel like if you show more of your personality through it, that also tells more of a story about who you are and about what you can create in general. And then my last few things in my portfolio are just like some of my own personal projects. So like my motion design projects that I've worked on myself and not necessarily for class, or just my overall class, different things that I've done for class. And yeah, I decided to include these things just because I feel like since I am looking to go into a creative field, I want to be able to showcase a lot of what I can do. And like we said previously, like you don't necessarily have to include every single thing, but I feel like if you do show off what you excel at, or um like if you are doing a marketing, looking to get a marketing job, and you show off your more like technical motion designs or your photography, a lot of those qualities are things that people in marketing and visual marketing do. So I think it is important to add that. And yeah, overall, I think that for portfolios in general, I don't think this is like the most highest quality of work I could have done. And I am like working on improving it still, but I feel like it's good to have a portfolio in general because I'm able to still submit that job applications, and they are able to see the different things I have done, rather than if I didn't have a portfolio at all, then they wouldn't be able to see it. So, even if it's not perfect, I would say it's always good to just start making it so that you have something to show for yourself and to submit, because even if it's not necessarily needed in a lot of cases, submitting something is always better than submitting nothing at all. And I chose Canva as the Canva websites as my portfolio site, just because I feel like Canva is such an easy program to use, and you don't even necessarily need to pay for it. I don't have my personal Canva account isn't like one that I pay for. So I think that you should just start, if you're starting a portfolio, don't worry too much about specific platforms, and just try to do everything like that you can um on a platform that is easiest for you. If like one that is paid for is something that you would like to do, you can pursue it, but I feel like Canva is just so easy to use, and it is really easy to just change different things and add new work that I do. So yeah, that's why I personally like Canva. And I don't think that having like an Adobe portfolio or like a Wix, I don't think the actual name of the site matters as much as the specific content that you put in it. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts about
Hmm.
portfolios and my thought process.
Thank you so much, Francesca, for sharing that all. And I think some of the things I want to reinforce as we're swapping back over and jumping back in, is that idea of you were able to use both the process-oriented stuff, like explaining your work and how you arrived at this, who they would be working with, as well as showing the product of that work. So those tangible results, but also, right, what did that flyer look like when it was all done and ready? So yeah, I really appreciate that from that standpoint. And so thank you so much. We also have some additional ones. If you would like to take a look at these different types of portfolios that are out there, get a feel for what a Squarespace one looks like versus Wix versus Adobe, you can always scan these codes and just check out some examples that are floating out there publicly on the web as well. And then, yeah, I think you're starting your research today, both by checking out what our peer has shared with us, but also if we're able to do some peer-to-peer sharing and kind of take a look at people's portfolios, you'll also get some ideas from that. Yeah, Edith, anything else to add about the research piece before we take a look at the next step?
Um, I I just am very thankful, Francesca, that you showed, your portfolio, and I feel like that's also part of the research. I was gonna ask you, like, when did you start your portfolio? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, so I would say I started it late into spring semester of
Mm,
2025.
okay.
So, like, probably near the end, like maybe around late March, early April, that's when I started it. And
Okay.
it definitely did take kind of long for me to do, just because I wanted mine to have like a certain design. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful work I think it would take me like a year, like 2 years probably to
And again,
like find
it's a
something.
living document.
Yeah.
So it will continue to grow with you. And as you gain new projects or you use it for different purposes, things will swap in and out.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Appreciate it.
So you've started like taking a look at some stuff, right? You've been looking out into the world and looking at these different examples of portfolios. Next step is to figure out, do you have a good sense of who you are? So Francesca was sharing exactly right, like your portfolio is a reflection of what the person that the reader would get to work with. So think about how you would describe yourself. Think about your style, your work, your strengths, your aesthetic, your approach, and also think about how other people might describe you, right? What does a favorite faculty member say? What does your mentor say? How would your peers describe you? And also, do these two things, these three or four or five things line up? Is there a united sense of like a personal brand, right? But also aspirational. Are these things how you want to be seen, even if you're not quite at that level yet? Or how do you want a faculty member or a peer or a future employer to view you? all of those are going to influence the choices that you make for your portfolio. So Edith alluded to this before, but now we're going to start gathering samples about, now you have a sense of who you are, who you want to be. Picking pieces of work that influence that is another huge part of that. So yeah, Edith, you want to walk us through maybe some of the things that you could include in a portfolio, in addition to maybe some of the things we saw in Francesca?
Sure. Let's see. Okay. So we see the class projects, and this is, this can definitely be, it depends on your program, depends what class you're selecting to showcase your projects. Uh, if you are someone who loves to make videos and you like editing, I highly recommend to start thinking about, including an artifacts around that. I have students who love to do ceramics and they love to work with different mediums, more like arts and crafts, for example. Painters, then I would say it's okay to like take photos of that, videos, start collecting those projects. Um, because I think a class project can definitely be um, from a little bit more on the businessy side. If you're a Quinlan student, there's definitely going to be plenty of opportunities from classes. For example, if you are thinking about anything that you have done for, again, like a hypothetical client, I think thinking about like anything that has to do with metrics is going to be super important. As you saw on Francesca's portfolio, she was showing numbers. Um, so I think those, like anything that has to do with like data analytics, SEO, I think it's important to include it. And it's okay if you don't know, but that's where I think that research part, along with maybe connecting with your friends, connecting with your professors, I think it's going to be crucial, the networking piece. Okay. Um, and again, like it also depends on your how active you are right now as a student. Also post graduation, like I highly recommend to stay active if it's through Loyola or if it's through your community or even like an association, a national association. I think staying active with what's relevant for your portfolio. And of course, internships, gigs, side gigs and jobs, that's definitely experience, professional experience that you can start adding to your portfolio. However, before you do that, I highly recommend for you to consult with your supervisors, people that are guiding you, mentors. How do you protect your work with, especially right now with AI? So always consult before you upload your work.
Yeah, totally. Because, right, like more applicable to sometimes some contract work and jobs, but you may not have permission to share an actual client project you are working on. Other times it might be fine if it's an excerpt or if the client's name is removed and it's like, this was done for a large local airline versus like naming the specific company itself. So always check with your supervisor if you're in kind of that paid position, but most things that you're doing for clubs and activities, independent projects, or things that you're doing for class are yours and yours alone. So you are in charge of figuring out, do I feel comfortable sharing it? So yeah. Based on the list of work that you're thinking about, if you've kind of come up with a brainstormed list of stuff, line that up with what you wanted to know about yourself or what you were thought about yourself for step two. And are there pieces that are missing? For example, maybe you said, one of my skills is Canva, but none of the examples you've pulled so far are using Canva. That might be a gap that you need to address and go and see if you can find a project that could talk to that skill, if that's important for you to communicate. Moving on to choosing a platform, as Francesca said, there are free options out there, and we've named a couple kind of common website builders there at the top. Some of these are more common to one industry versus another. So again, pay attention. What's out there as you're trying to find a fellow photographer or a fellow journalist or a fellow marketing expert? What are they using and is it working well for them? Is there a free or paid version? You could also use social media as your platform of choice. I work with some students who have a set aside social media channel that is just for their freelancing work. And that's how they attract new clients. That's how they share their work. It's how they're marketing themselves all in one. But others prefer that website because it's more static and it is something they could point people to, and it's a little bit more designable. Old school versions are going to be those final two options. You could either store your portfolio digitally on your own device, storing it locally, it's not online anywhere, and then only sharing it when maybe an employer asks for it. You're giving permission for maybe one person to view it. Really, really old school is it's a physical binder of photos and printouts and things you have with you. The only time you will ever see that these days is if maybe you're presenting your work, a physical, very physical craft-like work to a grad school. Most people are going to want it digital, and most people are going to want something easily shared rather than needing to ask you for permission. So I would highly recommend having either a website or social media. Although again, those are the most public and runs the risk of AI or your work getting stolen. So very carefully balance these things. So remembering too, the type of work you're sharing, do you need a very visual platform? Do you need something that is really good storing video or audio? Do you need something that works well across a bunch of different media types? So that might also inform your choice. Edith, how do we get it out in front of people?
Ashley, I love this slide. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm very proud of this little
I know,
penguin.
yeah.
Uh,
And
so
I'll jump in.
like this idea of sharing out your media, your portfolio, you could consider putting it in a whole bunch of different areas, right? Like it could just as a website live out there in the world, but how you draw attention to it and how you point employers to it or potential freelance hirers to it, put a link to it on the top of your resume. Ideally, the URL is something quick and readable and doesn't have a bunch of random strings and letters. Francesca did an excellent job with that. You could put it in your email signature. As you're talking with people back and forth, they'll see it right under your name and can click on it if they're communicating with you. You could put it on freelance platforms, especially if you're trying to advertise your work and gain a little bit of gig or side income from it. Put it on your LinkedIn, put it on your social media channels. Anywhere you are trying to drive connection points is a useful spot for it to be. And then, of course, later on, if you have a full-time job or an internship, you might even have a bio on the company website where you could link your portfolio there. And if you're handing out physical business cards or even a flyer for the type of work you do, you might also want to put it on those physical media as well. Yeah, Edith, other things
Thank
that
you.
we might want to say about sharing it out.
I think you hit all the points. I'm also thinking about at social events on campus, for example, or if you go to a career fair. I think nowadays it's super common for recruiters, hiring managers that are tabling that you're gonna eventually talk to. They might want to grab your email. They might want to grab your LinkedIn. So I think it's in my opinion being prepared to do that because eventually you can share your resume that way. If it's not through Handshake, for example. So I think really um keeping updated all of these profiles, your resume, of course. And yeah, I think Instagram too is definitely one that I feel like a lot of our students are super engaged on. And they're posting a lot of their content there. Yeah.
So we're going to shift gears and talk about what is it like for you to talk through your work like Francesca did. If you are in a situation where you're trying to talk through your work, either you're in an interview setting or perhaps you're applying for grad school or you're networking with somebody, know what your audience might be looking for. What is most important for them to see, right? And part of it might be pointing them towards the specific part of your portfolio that you want to jump to. So Francesca was talking with potentially a photography gig. We're going to jump right to the part about photography, and then we might circle back to other parts of the portfolio later. You might want to provide some context for your readers or your viewers to understand it beyond what might be written on the portfolio page, but give them the context of what is this piece? Why was it created? When did you create this? What purpose did it serve or what impact did it have? The who, what, when, where, why, how kind of aspects of it. So giving the context for the work that you're showing. And then remembering that the work, even though the portfolio is talking about your work, the focus is on you. So it is really common when we're sharing our own work to talk about it one step away. And what I mean by that is we talk about, well, this project was a really big one. This project was really important to the client. Canva was used in order to do this element of it, and we were really happy with the results. Okay, but let's put you in the center of it. When I was working with that client, this was the challenge I was presented with. Here's how I approached it. This was my part of the work. So really taking claim and ownership over the pieces of the work that you did put in, and trying to, again, keep the focus on you and your skills and your abilities. And as we're wrapping up, Edith and I just want to give a shout out to getting connected with career services. You can come in for one-on-one appointments. We can even talk through your portfolio and the questions you have, maybe help you brainstorm some ways to network with peers or potential like alumni connections that might be able to help you get some feedback from industry professionals. And you can, of course, follow us on Instagram, connect with us through Handshake, connect with us through our website. And that QR code there will get you to the appointment scheduler. Edith, where are you based?
Downtown Water Tower campus and Schreiber Center, first floor.
Yeah. And then I'm based up here on the Lakeshore campus. I'm over in Sullivan Center on the second floor, right near FSYA. And yeah, lastly, we just want to say thank you. Again, whether you're tuning in live or whether you're coming at the recording and kind of going through it. I put a picture of my new cat there on the screen. So those of you who have made it to the end, you are awarded with a cat picture. And certainly, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Edith or I. Edith, any final thoughts or words of wisdom before we close the recording and close out?
Yeah, thank you. I think I want to share that it's okay to not have all the answers when you're starting a portfolio. Things are not linear, and I highly recommend to at least connect with one professor that you feel like you want to reach out and consult with them regarding your portfolio.
Excellent. Yeah, Francesca, any words of wisdom since you're still here?
I would say, yeah, I feel like it's just kind of echoing what you guys have been saying, but just do your best to like create something that you think shows your best self. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah.
I like that. Yeah, always a work in progress, and it's going to grow and change with you. That's where we'll pause for today.